Welcome. Take a deep breath and another. Let your body settle into wherever you're resting right now. Feel the surface beneath you supporting your weight. There's nowhere else you need to be, nothing you need to accomplish, no deadline approaching. Just this moment, just your breath, just the sound of these words washing over you gently like waves on a shore. Tonight, we're going on a quiet journey together. A journey into something you do every single day, often without even realizing it. Learning. The way your mind absorbs new information. The way skills develop. The way understanding deepens. And you might be surprised, pleasantly surprised, to discover that learning doesn't have to take as long as you once believed. Many people believe learning must take a very long time. This belief runs deep. Maybe you learned it in school, where everything seemed to move at a predetermined pace, where everyone had to learn at the same speed, follow the same timeline. Or maybe you heard adults say things like, "It takes years to master anything," or "You can't rush understanding." And while there's truth in patience, there's also truth in this. Often, learning doesn't take as long as you think. This belief that learning must be slow can actually become a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you expect something to take forever, you approach it differently, with less urgency, less focus. And paradoxically, it does take longer. But when you release that expectation, when you give yourself permission to learn at your own natural pace, something beautiful shifts. Your mind becomes more open, more receptive, more willing to try. The pressure dissolves, and in that spaciousness, learning can actually accelerate. Take another deep breath. Feel your shoulders drop away from your ears. Notice any tension in your jaw, your forehead, the space between your eyebrows, and just let it soften. Let it release. There's no hurry here. Sometimes we confuse familiarity with true understanding. This is so common, so human. You might read an article again and again, feeling like each time through brings you closer to knowing it. You might watch a video multiple times, and there's something comforting in the repetition. It can feel productive, even reassuring, like you're doing the work, like you're making progress. But very little might actually be sticking. The information passes through your awareness, but doesn't quite take root. It doesn't quite become yours. And that's okay. It's not a failure on your part. It's not a sign that something is wrong with you. It's just information. Valuable information you can use to adjust your approach, to try something different, to be gentler, more strategic with yourself. Familiarity feels safe. Understanding requires something more. It requires engagement, active processing, connection to what you already know, and recognizing the difference between the two. That's actually a sign of wisdom. That's growth in itself. Let your breathing slow even more, in through your nose, out through your mouth, long and steady, like a tide moving in and out. Your body knows this rhythm. Trust it. Here's something worth knowing, something that might bring you relief. The brain doesn't learn best when things feel effortless. This might surprise you. We're taught to value ease, to seek the path of least resistance. But your brain actually thrives on gentle challenge, not overwhelming stress, not impossible tasks that leave you feeling defeated, but a soft edge of difficulty, like stretching a muscle carefully, mindfully. You feel the pull, but it doesn't hurt. It's that perfect balance between comfort and growth. When something is too easy, your brain doesn't pay close attention. It assumes the information isn't important, isn't worth remembering. But when there's a slight challenge, when you have to reach just a little, your brain sits up and takes notice. It says, "This matters. Pay attention to this. Remember this. You're strong enough to handle this kind of growth. You've handled it before, even if you don't remember. Every skill you have now was once unfamiliar, once challenging, and you learned it. You're more capable than you sometimes believe. Rest here for a moment. Just breathe. Just be. Your mind is absorbing all of this, even the parts you're not consciously tracking. Trust that process. And here's something else that might bring you peace, might ease some of the pressure you carry. Learning speed isn't fixed. It's not something you're born with that never changes, like your eye color or your height. It's something that can shift and evolve and improve over time. Your brain is remarkably adaptable. Neuroplasticity, scientists call it. The brain's ability to reorganize itself, to form new connections, to change its structure based on experience. And this happens throughout your entire life. Not just in childhood, not just when you're young, always. Your brain adapts through experience, through small moments of effort and meaning. Every single time you try something new, every time you practice with intention, every time you push yourself just slightly beyond what's comfortable, you're literally reshaping the pathways in your mind, creating new connections, strengthening existing ones, becoming someone who learns more easily. And this compounds. Each thing you learn makes the next thing easier. Not because the next thing is necessarily simpler, but because you've developed the capacity, you've learned how to learn, and that capacity grows with use. Breathe deeply. Feel your chest rise and fall. Notice the cool air entering your nose, the warm air leaving your mouth. This simple act of breathing, you don't have to think about it. Your body knows. And in the same way, your brain knows how to learn. You just have to create the conditions. You just have to get out of your own way. When learning feels slightly uncomfortable, your brain pays closer attention. It's a signal, an indicator that something important is happening, that something worth remembering is occurring. This discomfort isn't something to fear or avoid. It's not a sign that you're doing something wrong or that you're not cut out for this. It's actually a sign that you're in exactly the right place, on the edge of growth. Think of it as growing pains, but for your mind, that slight stretch, that mild challenge, it's where transformation happens. You can trust yourself to know the difference between productive challenge and harmful stress, between growth discomfort and actual overwhelm. Your body tells you, your mind tells you. And when you listen, when you honor those signals, you learn to work with yourself instead of against yourself. Let your body sink deeper into rest. Feel gravity pulling you down, supporting you. You're safe here, completely safe. Mistakes aren't failures. Let that sink in for a moment. Let it really land. Mistakes aren't failures. This might go against everything you've been taught. Every red mark on a school paper. Every time you got something wrong and felt that flash of shame. But mistakes are actually something entirely different. They're signals, guiding adjustment, information about what doesn't work, which is just as valuable as information about what does. Every time you make a mistake and notice it, your brain is gathering valuable data. It's learning, it's calibrating. And when you correct that mistake, when you adjust and try again, something beautiful happens in your brain, something chemical. When a mistake is corrected, your brain often releases neurotransmitters, chemicals that strengthen memory. Dopamine, norepinephrine. These chemicals mark that moment as important. They say, remember this. Remember what didn't work. Remember what you did instead. Remember the correction. And that memory becomes stronger, more reliable, more accessible than if you'd gotten it right the first time. The error becomes a teacher. The stumble becomes a stepping stone. This is why perfectionism is actually counterproductive for learning. When you're terrified of making mistakes, you play it safe. You stick to what you already know, and learning stalls. But when you can embrace mistakes as part of the process, as necessary and valuable, you free yourself to experiment, to try, to grow. Breathe, just breathe. Let these words wash over you. You don't need to remember all of this. Your mind is taking what it needs. Emotion quietly marks experiences as important. Your brain is always making decisions about what to remember and what to forget. It has to. You encounter millions of pieces of information every day. You can't possibly retain all of it. So your brain uses emotion as a filter, as a signal of importance. When something makes you feel something, anything really, your brain pays extra attention. It assumes that if this information is creating an emotional response, it must matter. And here's the gentle truth, the reassuring truth. Calm curiosity can be just as powerful as excitement. You don't need to feel intensely passionate about everything you learn. You don't need to be constantly excited or enthusiastic. Sometimes a quiet sense of wonder is more than enough. A gentle interest, a soft curiosity, that's sufficient to signal importance to your brain. So if you're someone who doesn't feel big emotions easily, that's perfectly fine. Your calm attention is valuable. Your quiet engagement matters. Rest deeper now. Let your muscles go soft. Let your mind go quiet. Just listen. Just receive. Learning slows when stress feels overwhelming. Your brain has two modes, roughly speaking. One for safety, for survival, for dealing with threats. And one for growth, for learning, for exploration. When you're stressed, really stressed, your brain shifts into that first mode. It narrows your focus, heightens your vigilance, prepares you to fight or flee. And in that state, learning becomes nearly impossible. The brain is too busy scanning for danger to absorb new information. But learning flows more easily in safe, relaxed environments. Environments like this one, right now, where you feel at ease, where there's no threat, no pressure. When you feel at ease, experimentation becomes easier. You're more willing to try something new, to risk getting it wrong, to play with ideas. And that experimentation, that playful engagement, that's how learning grows. That's how skills develop. So creating conditions of safety and ease for yourself isn't indulgent. It's not soft or weak. It's actually strategic. It's setting yourself up for success. And you can do this in small ways. A comfortable chair, good lighting, a cup of tea, removing distractions. These tiny acts of care create the conditions for growth. Your breath is so slow now, so steady. Your body is releasing into sleep. And that's perfect. That's exactly right. Keep listening. Keep drifting. Both at once. Most skills are simpler than they appear. From the outside, from a distance, skills can look impossibly complex. You watch someone play an instrument, speak a foreign language, solve a difficult problem, and it seems like magic, like something you could never do. But every skill, no matter how complex it looks, is actually made of only a few important parts, a few fundamental movements, a few core concepts, a few essential patterns. When you break a skill into smaller pieces, when you identify those core components, you reduce mental strain. You make the impossible feel possible. You give yourself a clear path forward. And focusing on one small part at a time allows progress to feel smoother, more natural, more achievable. You're not trying to master everything at once. You're just working on this one thing, this one small piece, and then the next, and then the next. And before you know it, those pieces come together, they integrate, and suddenly you can do something you couldn't do before. Let go completely now. You're safe, you're supported, you're exactly where you need to be. Rest. You're still here, still breathing, still allowing yourself this precious time to rest and absorb. That's beautiful. That takes commitment. Commitment to yourself, to your growth, to your well-being. Let's continue this gentle journey together. Take a moment to notice how your body feels right now. Is there any remaining tension? Any tightness in your shoulders, your neck, your back? Just notice it. You don't have to fix it. Just bring your awareness to it. And often, just the act of noticing allows things to soften, to release. Your body wants to rest. It knows how. You just have to give it permission. Knowing what good looks like helps the brain self-correct. This is such a practical, useful piece of information. When you have a clear picture of where you are heading, when you know what success looks like, what mastery feels like, your mind naturally adjusts course. It's like having a compass. You're walking through unfamiliar territory, but you have this tool that tells you which direction to go. And you don't need to force the direction. You don't need to strain and struggle. You just check in occasionally. Notice where you are. Notice where you want to be. And make small corrections, small adjustments. This is self-compassion in action. This is how you guide yourself with kindness instead of criticism. Instead of beating yourself up for not being there yet, you simply notice the gap and adjust. Gently, patiently, with understanding. And that gentle guidance is so much more effective than harsh criticism. Your brain responds better to encouragement than punishment. Always. Breathe deeply, in through your nose, filling your belly first, then your chest. Hold it for just a moment, and then release, slowly, fully, letting everything go. Starting with the basics gives new information somewhere to settle. Think of it like building a house. You wouldn't start with the roof, would you? You need a foundation first, something solid to build on. And when you're learning anything new, when you're developing any skill, the same principle applies. When you honor the fundamentals, when you give yourself permission to be a beginner, when you don't rush past the basics in your eagerness to get to the advanced stuff, you're creating that foundation. You're giving everything else a place to rest, a structure to attach to. And there's no shame in starting simple. There's only wisdom, only patience with yourself, only the recognition that every expert, every master, every person who makes something look easy, they all started with the basics too. They all spend time on the fundamentals, and so can you. So will you. Let your jaw relax. Let your tongue rest softly in your mouth. Let your face become smooth and peaceful. You're doing so well. Small pieces practiced repeatedly are often more effective than trying everything at once. Your brain loves repetition, not mindless, automatic repetition, where you're just going through the motions, but intentional, present, engaged repetition. Each time you return to something, you're not just doing the same thing again. You're strengthening the neural pathways, making them clearer, more reliable, more automatic. Think of it like walking through a field of tall grass. The first time, you have to push through, creating a path. The second time, there's a faint trail. The third time, the path is clearer. And after many passes, there's a well-worn trail that you can follow easily, almost without thinking. That's what's happening in your brain with repetition. You're creating and strengthening pathways, making the journey easier each time. And this works so much better than trying to create 10 different paths at once. Better to have one clear path than 10 faint ones. Better to master one small thing than to barely know 10 things. Your breathing is so slow now, so deep, like the breathing of deep sleep. And yet some part of you is still listening, still absorbing. This is the perfect state for learning. Relaxed attention, receptive awareness. One clear intention per session is often enough. This might be the most liberating thing you hear tonight. You don't need to master everything today. You don't even need to master one thing today. Just one clear intention, one small focus. That's all. What do you want to work on? What single aspect do you want to improve? And then just work on that. Nothing else. Just that one thing. This approach removes overwhelm. It takes away that panicky feeling of having too much to do, too much to learn, too much to remember. It creates space for actual progress. Instead of anxious spinning, space for depth instead of shallow dabbling. And that one small intention, practiced consistently, compounds into real transformation over time. Let your whole body feel heavy, like you're sinking into the surface beneath you, like gravity is pulling you down, 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 into deep rest. You're safe to let go, safe to stop holding yourself up, safe to simply be. Learning doesn't need endless hours. This is something so many people get wrong. They think that if they're not spending hours and hours on something, they're not really committed. They're not really trying. But often, a few focused ones are sufficient. A few hours of genuine, present, engaged attention. Quality matters so much more than quantity. Think about it. You could spend 5 hours with something, but if your attention is scattered, if you're distracted, if you're just going through the motions, how much are you really learning? Very little. But you could spend 30 minutes with something. 30 minutes of real focus, real engagement, real presence, and transform your understanding. So this takes pressure off. It means you don't need endless time. You don't need to clear your entire schedule. You just need to find small pockets of focused attention. And that's achievable. That's doable. Even in a busy life, even with limited time, you can make progress. Breathe. Just breathe. Let the oxygen nourish every cell in your body. Let it calm your nervous system. Let it bring you peace. Short, gentle daily sessions tend to work better than rare long ones. There's something about daily contact, daily engagement that creates momentum, that builds consistency, that keeps the skill or knowledge fresh in your mind. When you practice something every day, even for just 10 or 15 minutes, it stays active. Your brain knows this is important. This is something we're working on. But when you practice once a week for 3 hours, there's so much forgetting between sessions. You spend the first part of each session just trying to remember where you were, trying to rebuild what faded. And it's frustrating. It feels like you're not making progress. But with daily practice, even brief daily practice, each session builds on the one before. The momentum carries forward, and gently matters too. You're not trying to force things. You're not trying to cram. You're just touching base, maintaining connection, nurturing growth. And that gentleness makes it sustainable, makes it something you can keep doing, not just for weeks, but for months, for years, for a lifetime. Your mind is drifting now, thoughts floating by like clouds. And that's perfect. You don't need to hold on to anything. Just let it all flow through you. Spacing practice across days allows the brain to quietly reorganize. This is one of the most fascinating things about how we learn. The learning doesn't just happen during practice, it happens between practices too. While you sleep, while you go about your day, while you're thinking about other things entirely, your mind is working in the background, processing, connecting, making sense of what you've learned, consolidating memories, strengthening pathways. This is why cramming doesn't work well, why trying to learn everything the night before doesn't stick. There's no space for the brain to process. But when you spread your practice out, when you give yourself time between sessions, your brain has room to work, to organize, to integrate, and you come back to the skill or knowledge stronger than when you left it. It's like magic, but it's not. It's just your brain doing what it does best. Rest now. Deep, deep rest. Let your consciousness drift towards sleep. You're exactly where you need to be. Rest between sessions is part of learning, not the absence of it. Let yourself really feel the permission in that. Every time you step away from active practice, you're not abandoning your goals. You're not being lazy. You're not wasting time. You're actually engaging in a crucial part of the learning process. Rest is where consolidation happens, where memories solidify, where understanding deepens. So when you feel guilty for not practicing, for taking time off, for resting, remember this. Rest is essential. Rest is productive. Rest is part of the work. And honoring your need for rest, that's honoring the learning process itself. That's working with your brain instead of against it. Your whole body is soft now, relaxed, heavy with the weight of impending sleep. And your mind is quiet, peaceful, still absorbing these truths, even as consciousness fades. Perfect. This is perfect. Consistency matters more than intensity. You've heard this before, probably, but let it really sink in now. You don't need to push yourself to exhaustion. You don't need to have marathon sessions where you work until you can't think straight anymore. You don't need to prove anything through suffering. Just show up, gently, regularly, with kindness toward yourself. That's the path that lasts. That's the path that actually leads to mastery. That's the path that doesn't burn you out. Intensity is seductive. It feels dramatic and impressive. But consistency is what builds skills, what creates transformation, what makes growth sustainable. And consistency is so much kinder, so much more compassionate. You show up for yourself again and again, not through force, but through care, through commitment, through the recognition that you're worth this investment of time and attention. Attention naturally rises and falls. Some moments you'll feel sharp and focused, crystal clear, fully present. Other moments your mind will wander, your focus will drift, your attention will fragment. Both are normal. Both are completely human. There's nothing wrong with you when your attention wavers. It's not a sign of failure or weakness. It's just how attention works. And you can work with these rhythms instead of fighting them. Notice when your attention is naturally higher. Maybe it's in the morning, maybe it's late at night, maybe it's after you've moved your body or had something to eat. And honor that. Do your most important learning during those high attention windows. And when your attention dips, be gentle with yourself. Take a break. Do something easier. Or just rest. Trust that your focus will return. It always does. Breathe. Slowly, deeply. Let each exhale take you deeper into relaxation, deeper into peace, deeper into this moment of perfect rest. Continue to breathe. Continue to settle. Your body knows what to do. It's sinking deeper into rest with each passing moment. And your mind, even as it grows quieter, is still listening, still absorbing, still learning in this beautiful, effortless way. There's nowhere to rush to, nothing to accomplish. We're simply exploring together, exploring how practice shapes you, how reflection deepens everything you're learning, how small adjustments create big transformations. Notice the darkness behind your closed eyelids, or if your eyes are still open, let them soften. Let your gaze go unfocused. There's nothing you need to see right now. Nothing that requires your visual attention. You can let that sense rest. Let it fade into the background. And as it does, your other senses might become clearer. The sound of these words, the feeling of your body against the surface beneath you, the gentle rise and fall of your breathing. This is presence. This is being here, now, fully. Ending a session with a brief review can softly strengthen memory. This is such a simple practice, and yet so powerful. Before you close the book, before you turn off the video, before you move on to the next thing, take just a moment, just 30 seconds even. What stood out to you? What felt important? What surprised you? You don't need to try to remember everything. That would be overwhelming and counterproductive. Just notice what your mind naturally gravitates toward. What feels significant? What catches your attention? Because that's your inner wisdom speaking. That's your brain telling you what matters most to you right now. And by taking that moment to reflect, to review, you're giving your brain a chance to consolidate, to mark those moments as important, to strengthen those memories before they fade. It's like taking a photograph. You're capturing the experience before it becomes distant, before the details blur. Your face is so peaceful now, smooth and relaxed, like the face of a sleeping child, innocent and at ease. Let that feeling spread through your whole body, through your neck, your shoulders, your arms, down through your torso, your hips, your legs. Complete relaxation, complete peace. Practice improves faster when goals are simple and specific. Vague intentions create vague results. If you sit down to practice and you're not quite sure what you're working on, if your goal is something broad like get better at this, you won't know where to focus your attention. You'll dabble a bit with this, a bit with that, and at the end of the session, you won't have a clear sense of progress. But when you know exactly what you're working on, when you can name it clearly and specifically, your brain knows what to look for, what to refine, what to adjust, what to celebrate. It's the difference between saying, I want to improve my writing, and saying, I want to write more vivid descriptions of places. One is vague, the other gives you something concrete to work on. And specificity is actually a form of self-care. It removes confusion. It removes that spinning, uncertain feeling. It replaces it with clarity and direction. And clarity feels good. It feels supportive. It feels like you're setting yourself up for success. Breathe in, breathe out. Nothing else matters right now. Just this breath, just this moment, just this peaceful, floating feeling. Feedback helps the brain adjust quickly. You don't have to figure everything out alone. You don't have to rely solely on your own perception, your own judgment. Sometimes feedback comes from others, a teacher, a mentor, a friend, someone with more experience who can see what you can't see yet. And that external perspective is valuable. It can save you time. It can help you avoid unhelpful patterns. But sometimes feedback comes from simply noticing yourself, paying attention to what works and what doesn't, what feels right and what feels off. This isn't about harsh judgment. This isn't about criticizing yourself or focusing on everything you're doing wrong. It's about information, neutral, useful information that you can use with gentleness and curiosity, like a scientist observing an experiment. No judgment, just observation, just data, and then using that data to adjust, to refine, to improve. Your body is so heavy now, so completely relaxed, like you couldn't move even if you wanted to, and you don't want to. You just want to sink deeper into this feeling, deeper into rest. Sometimes watching yourself or listening back reveals useful patterns. There's something powerful about seeing your own progress from the outside, from a different perspective. Maybe you record yourself practicing a skill. Maybe you film a presentation. Maybe you write in a journal and then read it back later. And when you observe yourself from that external position, you notice things you couldn't feel in the moment, patterns you weren't aware of, habits both helpful and unhelpful. And this isn't about being critical. It's not about finding flaws to beat yourself up about. It's about discovery, about understanding yourself more deeply, about seeing yourself with compassion and curiosity, about noticing what's working so you can do more of it, about noticing what isn't working so you can gently adjust. And there's something about this external perspective that makes progress visible in a way it isn't when you're in the thick of it. When you're doing the thing, it's hard to see how far you've come. But when you look back, when you observe yourself, the growth becomes clear. And that's motivating, that's encouraging, that's proof that your effort matters. Let your mind wander. Let thoughts drift by like leaves on a stream. You don't need to hold on to them. You don't need to follow them. Just let them pass. Just rest in this quiet, spacious awareness. Learning adapts best when difficulty adjusts gently. This is about finding that sweet spot, that perfect balance. Too easy, and you're not growing. You're just repeating what you already know, what you can already do. There's no challenge, so there's no adaptation, but it's too hard, and you're overwhelmed, frustrated. Your brain shuts down instead of opening up. But right in the middle, right where things feel challenging but possible, difficult but doable, that's where transformation happens. That's where your brain is engaged and adapting and growing. And you can trust yourself to find that edge. You know what too easy feels like. Boring, unchallenging. You know what too hard feels like. overwhelming, impossible, and somewhere in between is just right. And when things start to feel too easy, you adjust, make it a bit harder. And when things feel too hard, you adjust the other way, make it a bit easier. You have permission to do this, permission to honor your own capacity, permission to work at the edge that's right for you, right now, today. Not the edge that's right for someone else, not the edge that was right for you last week or next month, but the edge that's right for you in this moment. Your breathing is so quiet now, so subtle, like the whisper of wind through trees, barely there, and yet sustaining you, nourishing you, keeping you alive and at peace. Shifting focus between parts of a skill can improve the whole. Sometimes the best thing you can do is step sideways. You've been working on one aspect of a skill, really drilling down, really focusing, and you're making progress. But maybe you've hit a plateau. Maybe improvement has slowed. Maybe you're feeling a bit stuck. That's the perfect time to shift. Work on something related but different, a different aspect of the same skill, and let your mind approach the challenge from a new angle. This isn't distraction. This isn't avoiding the work. It's actually strategy. It's giving your brain a different way in. And often, when you come back to that first thing, after working on something else for a while, you find that you've improved. Not in spite of shifting focus, but because of it. Because the skills are related. Because working on one strengthens connections that help with the other. Because your brain has been processing in the background. And sometimes the indirect path is actually faster than the direct one. Rest. Deep, deep rest. Your muscles are soft. Your mind is quiet. You're floating in a space of perfect peace. Nothing can disturb you here. You're completely safe, completely held, completely at ease. Practicing past the point of good enough can make skills feel automatic. There's a concept in learning called overlearning. It means continuing to practice even after you can already do the thing. It feels a bit wasteful sometimes. Like, I can already do this. Why keep practicing? But there's a beautiful reason to continue. There's a moment when something shifts from effortful to natural, when you don't have to think so hard anymore, when it just flows, when it becomes automatic. And that comes from continuing just a little beyond comfortable, from trusting that the extra repetition, even when it feels unnecessary, is building something lasting, something deep. You're not just learning the skill, you're making it part of you, part of how you move, part of what you do without thinking. And that's when skills become truly useful, when they're so integrated that you don't have to spend energy remembering how to do them. They just happen. Your consciousness is fading now, drifting towards sleep. And that's perfect. That's exactly right. You can let go completely. These words will continue, and some part of you will continue listening, even as you sleep. Trust that. Applying skills in new situations helps them feel more real. Knowledge that stays in one context, in one narrow application, stays small. It stays theoretical. But when you use what you've learned in different ways, in different places, in different situations, it becomes truly yours. It integrates. It becomes flexible. It becomes part of how you think and how you move through the world. This is transfer. This is generalization. And it's one of the most important aspects of learning. You don't just want to be able to do something in one specific context. You want to be able to adapt it, apply it, Use it in whatever situation calls for it, and the way you develop that flexibility is by practicing in varied contexts, by deliberately using your skills in different ways, by playing with them, experimenting with them, making them stretch to fit new situations. Let go, completely, utterly. Your body is released, your mind is quiet, you're sinking into sleep, and that's beautiful. That's exactly what this time is for. Rest now. Deep, nourishing rest. Fast learners notice what works and gently adjust what doesn't. They're not smarter or more talented than others. That's not what separates them. What separates them is attention. They're more attentive, more observant, more willing to experiment. They try something. They notice the result. If it worked, they do more of it. If it didn't, they try something different. And they do all of this without judgment, without self-criticism, with compassion and curiosity. They're scientists of their own learning, always gathering data, always refining, always adjusting. And you can be this kind of learner. You already are, in fact. You're just learning to trust that process, to honor that natural intelligence, to work with yourself instead of against yourself. Sleep now. Let these words fade into background noise. Let your consciousness dissolve into dreams. You're safe. You're learning. You're growing, even in sleep, especially in sleep. Testing yourself, even lightly, strengthens memory more than rereading. This is counterintuitive. It feels harder to try to recall something than to simply read it again. And it is harder. That's exactly why it works better. The effort of retrieving information, of reaching for it in your memory, that effort does something important. It strengthens the pathway. It makes the memory more robust, more accessible, more permanent. Think of it like a muscle. Reading is like watching someone else lift weights. Recalling is like lifting the weights yourself. One feels easier, the other builds strength. So be gentle with yourself when recall feels difficult. When you can't quite remember something and you have to work for it. That difficulty isn't a problem. That difficulty is doing something valuable. It's making the memory stronger, more reliable, more available when you actually need it, when you need to use that information in real life, not just review it in a safe study session. Rest, breathe, dream. You're exactly where you need to be. You're doing so well. Just being here, just breathing, just listening. That takes courage. That takes commitment to yourself. And you deserve this time. You deserve this rest. You deserve to learn in this gentle, easeful way. Let's continue exploring together. Let's dive into how memory works, how understanding deepens, how you can work with your brain's natural tendencies instead of against them. Feel the weight of your head against the pillow or cushion beneath you. Notice how perfectly supported you are. Your head is heavy. Your skull feels like it's sinking down, down, down. And that's wonderful. That's your body releasing completely, trusting that it's held, that it's safe. You can let go of holding yourself up. Let go of any remaining tension or vigilance. Just be held. Small, low-pressure quizzes can be surprisingly effective. The key words there are low pressure, because when pressure is high, when the stakes feel significant, your nervous system activates, fight or flight. Cortisol floods your body, and in that state, memory actually becomes less accessible. Your brain is too focused on survival to recall information easily. But when you remove the stakes, when you make it safe to not know, when you create an environment where getting something wrong is no big deal, something opens up, your nervous system stays calm, your memory stays accessible, and you can actually play with what you're learning. Test yourself gently, without judgment, without fear, without that clenched, anxious feeling. This creates an environment where memory thrives, where recall becomes easier, where learning feels more like exploration than evaluation. And you can create this for yourself. You can quiz yourself in small ways, casual ways, throughout your day, just checking in with what you remember, what stuck, what needs another pass, and doing it all with kindness, with curiosity, with the understanding that not remembering something doesn't mean anything bad about you. Your breathing is so slow now, so deep and rhythmic, like ocean waves, in and out, constant, reliable, soothing. Let that rhythm carry you deeper into relaxation. Reviewing information over time slows forgetting. Your brain is incredibly efficient, maybe too efficient sometimes. It doesn't want to hold on to information that seems unimportant. That would be wasteful. So it has a natural tendency to forget, to let things fade, to make room for new information. This is normal, this is healthy. But it means that if you learn something once and never return to it, it will fade. The memory will weaken, the details will blur. But when you return to something, when you review it, you're sending a signal to your brain. You're saying, this matters, this is important, keep this. And your brain listens. It strengthens that memory. It holds on more tightly. And if you review it again later, the signal is even stronger. The memory becomes even more permanent, even more accessible. This is why spacing out your reviews works so well. You learn something. You review it the next day, then a few days later, then a week later, then a month later. And each time, the memory gets stronger, more durable, less likely to fade. It's like tending a garden. You can't just plant seeds and walk away. You have to return, water them, care for them, and then they grow strong and lasting. Let your whole body melt. Let every muscle release its tension. Let every cell relax. You're safe to completely let go. There's nothing you need to do, nothing you need to protect yourself from. Just rest, just be. Mixing related topics together can improve long-term understanding. This one feels counterintuitive. It feels messier than studying one thing at a time, less organized, less clear. When you mix topics, you have to work a bit harder to distinguish between them, to remember which concept goes with which topic. And that feels more difficult, more confusing. But that productive confusion actually helps. It forces your brain to make distinctions, to notice differences, to see connections, to build a richer, more integrated understanding. When you study just one thing at a time, everything feels distinct and separate. But when you mix them, you start to see how they relate, how they're similar and different, how they connect and diverge. And that web of connections, that network of relationships, that's what deep understanding looks like. That's what allows you to use knowledge flexibly, to apply it in new situations, to transfer it across contexts. So if it feels messier to mix things up, that's actually a good sign. That's your brain doing important work. Your mind is so quiet now. Thoughts are sparse and distant, like stars in a vast dark sky. Barely there, and the darkness, the quiet, the emptiness, that's restful, that's peaceful. That's exactly what you need right now. Almost forgetting, then remembering, can strengthen recall. There's a moment in trying to remember something where your right on the edge. You can almost grasp it. It's right there, but not quite. And that moment feels frustrating. You want the memory to come easily. You want instant access. But actually, that moment of struggle, that moment of reaching, that's valuable. Because when you finally retrieve the memory, when it finally comes to you, the pathway becomes stronger, more clear, more reliable. The effort of retrieval creates a stronger memory than easy retrieval would. So don't fear those moments of temporary forgetting, those moments where you have to work for the memory. They're actually opportunities for deeper learning, for more durable memory. And if you can't retrieve it, if the memory doesn't come even after effort, that's okay too. That's information. Information that tells you that you need to review that particular thing again, that it hasn't stuck yet. And that's fine. That's normal. That's just part of the process. Breathe, slowly, gently. Let each breath take you deeper into peace, deeper into rest, deeper into this floating, drifting state between waking and sleeping. Slight difficulty often helps memory last longer. Ease feels good in the moment. It feels comfortable and reassuring, but it doesn't always serve long-term retention. When something comes easily, when you don't have to work for it, your brain doesn't mark it as particularly important. It assumes that if it's easy, it must not matter much. But a little challenge, a little effort, a little difficulty, that creates memories that endure, that last, that remain accessible years later. So when learning feels slightly hard, when you have to concentrate, when you have to work at it a bit, know that you're actually creating stronger, more lasting memories. You're investing in your future self, and you're strong enough for this kind of difficulty. You can handle the gentle stretch, the mild challenge. It's not overwhelming. It's not impossible. It's just right at the edge of your capacity. And that's exactly where growth happens. Your body is like water now, flowing, formless, completely relaxed, completely at peace. There's no boundary between you and the surface beneath you. You're just melting into it, becoming one with it. And that's beautiful. That's perfect. Grouping ideas into patterns reduces mental effort. Your brain is a pattern-seeking machine. It's constantly looking for patterns, for structure, for order in chaos. That's how it makes sense of the overwhelming amount of information it encounters every day. And when you help organize information into meaningful groups, into patterns, into structures, you're working with your mind's natural tendencies. You're making things easier on yourself. Instead of trying to remember 10 separate facts, you remember one pattern with 10 examples. Instead of memorizing a long list of unrelated items, you group them into categories. And suddenly, the list is much easier to hold in memory, much easier to recall. This is why mnemonics work, why acronyms help, why chunking is effective. You're giving your brain what it wants, what it's designed to work with. Patterns, structure, organization. And that reduces cognitive load. It makes thinking easier, learning easier, remembering easier. Let go even more. Let your consciousness fade. Let yourself drift towards sleep. You're safe. You're held. You're exactly where you need to be. These words will continue, and you can rest. You can sleep. Some part of you will still be listening, still absorbing, even in sleep. Visual places and images can help store information gently. This is the method of Loti, the memory palace technique. And it works because your brain is incredibly good at remembering places. Spatial memory is strong, reliable. It evolved over millions of years because knowing where you were, where things were, that was essential for survival. And you can use that strength. You can imagine a place you know well, your childhood home, a familiar walking path. And in your imagination, you place pieces of information in different locations. The front door holds one fact, the kitchen table holds another, the garden holds a third. And when you want to recall the information, you take a mental walk through that place. You visit each location and retrieve what you stored there. It sounds elaborate, but it's surprisingly effective. And it doesn't have to be a real place. You can create an imaginary place, a fantastical landscape, whatever works for you, whatever feels natural and easy. The key is giving abstract information something concrete to hold on to, something spatial, something visual, something your brain can easily remember. Your eyelids are so heavy. If they're not already closed, they want to close, and you can let them. You can release into the darkness, into the peace, into the rest. There's nothing left to see, only to listen, only to feel, only to be. Combining words with images gives the brain more paths to remember. This is dual coding. When you represent information in multiple ways, in multiple formats, you create multiple pathways to that information in your brain. And the more pathways, the more likely you are to retrieve it later. Words alone are powerful. They carry meaning, nuance, precision. Images alone are powerful. They're immediate, visceral, memorable. But together, they create something even stronger. The words give structure and detail. The images give concrete representation. And your brain can access the memory through either pathway. If you can't quite remember the words, maybe the image will come to you. If the image is hazy, maybe the words will be clear. You're giving yourself redundancy, backup, multiple ways in. And that makes memory more robust, more reliable, more accessible when you need it. Rest deeply, completely. Let yourself sink all the way down into sleep, into dreams, into the peaceful darkness where your brain does its most important work, where memories consolidate, where understanding deepens, where transformation happens. Speaking ideas aloud can deepen understanding. There's something about hearing yourself say something that makes it more real, more solid, more concrete. When an idea lives only in your thoughts, it can be vague, fuzzy, not fully formed. But when you speak it, when you give it voice, you have to make it clear. You have to put it into words. You have to structure it in a way that makes sense. And that process of externalization, of taking something internal and making it external, that deepens understanding, reveals gaps you didn't know were there. It shows you what you really know and what you only think you know. And even if you're alone, even if no one else hears, it matters. It's powerful. Your own ears hearing your own voice saying your own thoughts. That creates a different kind of knowing, a more embodied knowing, a more integrated knowing. Sleep now. Let consciousness fade completely. Let these words become distant, become background, become part of the dreamscape. You're safe, you're learning, you're growing, even now, even in sleep. Writing by hand often encourages clearer thinking. There's something about the slower pace of handwriting compared to typing that creates space for thought. Your hand moves and your mind follows, but it follows at a walking pace, not a running pace. And in that slower movement, there's room for ideas to develop more fully, for connections to form more naturally, for understanding to deepen more completely. When you type, your fingers can move faster than your thoughts. You can get ahead of yourself. But when you write by hand, thought and movement synchronize. They move together. And there's a connection there, an integration between physical movement and mental process, between body and mind. And that integration supports learning, supports memory, supports understanding. So if you have the option, if it's practical, writing by hand can be a gift to yourself, a way of slowing down enough to really think, really process, really learn, rest, dream, float in the peaceful darkness. You're exactly where you need to be. Welcome back. Or perhaps you never left. Perhaps you've been drifting gently this whole time, half awake, half dreaming, in that liminal space where consciousness blurs and softens. That's perfect. That's exactly the right place to be. Let's continue exploring together. Let's talk about meaning now, about connection, about how the way you relate to information transforms how deeply you learn it, how permanently it stays with you. Notice your body right now, how completely relaxed it is, how heavy it feels, like you're made of lead, sinking down through layers of softness, through the surface beneath you, through the floor, through the earth itself, down, 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 into some deep, quiet place where nothing can disturb you, where nothing can reach you, where you're completely, utterly safe. Visual maps help organize thoughts naturally. Maybe you've seen mind maps before, those diagrams with a central idea in the middle and branches spreading out in all directions, each branch holding related concepts, each sub-branch holding details. They look organic, like trees, like river systems, like neurons in the brain. And that's not coincidental. Your brain already thinks this way. It makes associations. It connects things. It creates networks of meaning. When you map your thoughts visually, you're not imposing some artificial structure. You're simply making that natural process visible. You're externalizing what's already happening internally and seeing it laid out in front of you, seeing the connections made explicit. That helps understanding deepen. It helps you see relationships you might have missed, patterns you weren't aware of, gaps that need filling, and it makes information easier to remember because you're not just remembering isolated facts. You're remembering a structure, a map, and maps are easier to hold in mind than lists. Your breathing is barely perceptible now, so subtle, so quiet, like you're hardly breathing at all, and yet you are. Your body knows what to do. It doesn't need your conscious attention. It just breathes, just lives, just is. And you can trust that. You can let go of any need to control or monitor. Your body has this. Metaphors give abstract ideas something familiar to rest on. When you're learning something completely new, something without precedent in your experience, it can feel impossible to grasp, like trying to hold water in your hands. But when you compare that new thing to something you already understand, when you create a bridge between the unknown and the known, suddenly it becomes approachable. Learning is like building a house. Memory is like a garden. The brain is like a computer, or no, like a forest, or like an ocean. These comparisons aren't just poetic. They're not just decorative. They're actually functional. They're practical. They help difficult concepts feel manageable. They give you a way in, a foothold, a starting place. And the metaphor doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to capture every aspect of the thing. It just has to give you something familiar to hold on to while you develop direct understanding. The metaphor is a bridge, and once you've crossed the bridge, you can leave it behind. Let your mind wander wherever it wants to go. Let thoughts arise and dissolve like bubbles in water. You don't need to follow them. You don't need to engage with them. Just let them be. Just notice them passing. And rest in the spaciousness between thoughts, the quiet, the peace. Explaining ideas to yourself clarifies what you know. Have you ever tried to teach something to someone else and realized you didn't understand it as well as you thought? It's humbling, sometimes frustrating, but it's actually incredibly valuable because it reveals the gaps, the places where your understanding is fuzzy or incomplete. And you can't see those gaps when you're just passively absorbing information, when you're just reading or listening. But when you try to explain something, when you try to put it into your own words and make it clear for someone else, suddenly the gaps become visible. And that's not a problem. That's not a failure. That's information. Useful, actionable information. Now you know what you need to work on, what you need to review, what you need to clarify, and you don't even need an actual person to explain to. You can do this alone. Just imagine teaching someone, or write out an explanation as if you were creating a guide for someone else, or speak it aloud to an empty room. The act of explaining itself is what matters. That's what reveals and clarifies. Your whole being is peaceful now, relaxed, at ease. There's no tension anywhere, no tightness, no holding, just complete release, complete surrender to rest, to sleep, to this healing, restorative state. Creating examples strengthens understanding. Abstract principles are hard to hold on to. They're slippery, vague, but examples make ideas concrete. They show you what the principle looks like in action, what it means in real life. And the act of creating your own examples, not just reading someone else's, that's powerful. Because to create an example, you have to truly understand the principle. You have to know it well enough to recognize it in different contexts, to see how it applies in various situations. And that process of application, of translation, from abstract to concrete, that deepens understanding significantly. It makes the principle yours, not just something you read about, not just something you can recite, but something you genuinely understand, something you can use. Drift now, float, let consciousness fade in and out like waves on a shore, sometimes more present, sometimes less, and all of it is perfect, all of it is exactly right. You're in the perfect state for deep, lasting learning. Asking quiet how and why questions deepens learning. Curiosity is one of the gentlest, most powerful forms of intelligence. You don't need to demand answers. You don't need to force understanding. You just wonder, how does this work? Why does this happen? What connects this to that? These questions open doors. They invite deeper exploration. They transform passive reception into active inquiry. And your brain loves questions. It's wired to seek answers. When you pose a question, even if you don't consciously try to answer it, your brain starts working on it. In the background, beneath awareness, making connections, testing possibilities. And often, the answer arrives unexpectedly while you're doing something else, while you're not even thinking about it. That's your brain doing what it does best, seeking patterns, solving problems, making sense of things. Rest deeply. Let these words fade into the background. Let them become part of the texture of your dreams. You're safe. You're learning, you're growing, all is well. Teaching, even in imagination, can reveal gaps gently. You don't need an actual audience. You don't need students sitting in front of you. Just imagine explaining what you've learned to someone. Picture them in your mind and walk them through it, step by step, concept by concept, and notice where you stumble, where things feel unclear, where you're not quite sure how to explain something. Those moments aren't failures, they're gifts. They show you exactly where to focus your attention next, exactly what needs more work, more review, more clarification. And because you're doing this in imagination, there's no pressure, no judgment, no embarrassment if you get stuck. It's just you and your own understanding, meeting gently and honestly. Sleep, dream, rest in the deep peace of knowing that your brain is working even now, processing, consolidating, organizing, making connections, strengthening pathways. You don't have to try, you just have to rest, and your brain does the rest. Learning with others offers new perspectives. When you're alone with a subject, you see it through your own eyes only, your own perspective, your own understanding, and that's valuable, but it's limited because there are other ways to see, other ways to understand, other angles and approaches. And when you learn with other people, when you share the journey with someone else, you get access to their perspectives. You hear their questions, their insights, their unique understanding. And all of that enriches your own. It shows you things you wouldn't have seen alone, asks questions you wouldn't have thought to ask, makes connections you wouldn't have made. Community isn't just nice. It isn't just pleasant. It's actually powerful. It expands what's possible. It multiplies understanding. And even if you're naturally more introverted, even if you prefer learning alone most of the time, occasional connection with others can transform your learning, can open doors you didn't know existed. Your consciousness is barely present now, just a faint flicker, and that's beautiful. That's exactly right. You can let go completely. Let sleep take you. Let dreams carry you away. You're safe. You're held. All is well. Early guidance can prevent unhelpful habits. When you're learning something completely new, when you're a true beginner, you don't know what you don't know. You can't see the pitfalls, can't anticipate the problems. And in that state, it's easy to develop habits that will limit you later. Habits that feel comfortable now, but will be hard to unlearn. And a little direction at the beginning, a little guidance from someone who's traveled the path before, that can save so much frustration later, so much wasted effort. There's no shame in asking for help, in seeking out a teacher or mentor or guide. That's not weakness, that's wisdom, that's self-care, that's honoring your own growth and being strategic about how you spend your limited time and energy. Rest, breathe, be. Nothing more is required, nothing more is needed. You're perfect exactly as you are, exactly where you are in this moment. Sharing knowledge often reinforces confidence. When you teach what you know, even casually, even informally, you realize something important. You realize how much you've actually learned, because in the middle of learning, progress feels invisible, slow. You're so focused on what you don't know yet, on what's still difficult, that you lose sight of how far you've come. But when you share with someone else, when you explain or demonstrate or help them understand, you see your own progress reflected back, and that builds something crucial: trust in yourself, belief in your own capacity to grow and change, confidence that's not arrogant or inflated, but quiet and genuine, rooted in actual evidence, actual capability. And that confidence becomes a foundation for further growth. It creates a positive cycle. Learning builds confidence. Confidence supports more learning. And on and on. Sleep deeply now, fully, completely. Let go of any remaining awareness. Let these words dissolve into the darkness, into the quiet, into the peace. You're exactly where you need to be. Attention quality matters more than time spent. You could spend hours with something and absorb very little, sitting with a book open, but your mind somewhere else, going through the motions of practice, but not really present, not really engaged. And at the end of all those hours, you wonder why you haven't improved, why you don't remember much. But it's because attention was scattered, divided, only partially present. Quality matters. Presence matters. You could spend just 15 minutes with something. 15 minutes of genuine focus, of real engagement, of complete presence, and transform your understanding. Learn more in those 15 minutes than in hours of distracted effort. So this takes pressure off. It means you don't need endless time. You don't need to clear your entire schedule. You just need to find small pockets of focused attention, moments of real presence. And that's achievable. That's doable. Even in a busy life, even with competing demands, you can find 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour. And if you're truly present during that time, it's enough. It's more than enough. Rest, peace, sleep. You are held in perfect safety, perfect care. All is well. All will continue to be well. You can rest completely, deeply, fully. Let go. You're still here, still listening on some level, even if consciousness has faded, even if you've drifted into dreams. Some part of you is still absorbing these words, still learning. And that's the beauty of this state, this liminal space between waking and sleeping. Your conscious mind can rest, and your deeper mind continues to work, continues to process, continues to grow. Let's talk about energy now, about environment, about the conditions that help you thrive, the external circumstances that support your internal growth. Feel the temperature of the air around you. Is it cool, warm, just right? Notice how your body is exactly the right temperature. Not too hot, not too cold, comfortable, at ease. And if there's any small discomfort, any tiny adjustment that would make you more comfortable, you can make it. You have permission to move, to shift, to settle into even greater ease. This is your time, your rest. You get to make it as comfortable as possible. Learning works best when energy is naturally higher. Your energy fluctuates throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout your life. Sometimes you feel sharp and focused, alert and energized. Other times you feel foggy and slow, tired and depleted. Both are normal. Both are part of being human. Your body has natural rhythms, circadian rhythms, ultradian rhythms, patterns that govern when you're more alert and when you're less so. And you know your own rhythms better than anyone else. Maybe you're sharpest in the morning. Maybe your mind comes alive in the evening. Maybe you have a window of clarity after exercise or after eating. There's no right answer, no universal truth, only your truth, your rhythm, your pattern. And when you honor that, when you work with your energy instead of against it, everything becomes easier. So pay attention. Notice when you feel most alert, most capable, most present, and do your most important learning then. Do your most challenging work then. Save the easier stuff for when energy is lower. This isn't laziness. This is strategy. This is working intelligently with the body and brain you actually have. Your heartbeat is slow and steady, reliable, constant, like a drum in the distance. Ba-bump, ba-bump, ba-bump. And with each beat, you're alive, nourished, sustained. You don't have to think about it. Don't have to control it. It just happens. Your body taking care of you while you rest. Gentle movement before learning can sharpen focus. Your body and brain aren't separate. They're intimately connected. When your body is stagnant, sluggish, your mind tends to be too. But when you move, even gently, even briefly, something shifts. Blood flows more readily. Oxygen circulates. Your nervous system wakes up just enough. Not into stress or activation, but into alertness, into readiness. A short walk around the block, some stretching, a few minutes of yoga. Nothing intense, nothing exhausting, just enough to wake up your body, to get things flowing. And that physical awakening translates into mental clarity, into better focus, into easier learning. So if you're about to sit down to learn something, especially something challenging, consider moving first. Just a little, just enough to shift out of complete stillness and notice the difference it makes. Let your muscles go even softer, even more relaxed. Scan through your body, your face, your neck, your shoulders, your arms and hands, your chest and belly, your back, your hips and legs, your feet. Is there any remaining tension? Any holding? Just notice it. Breathe into it and let it release. Let it dissolve like sugar in warm water. Short pauses often lead to insight. Sometimes the breakthrough comes not during active work, not while you're concentrating and trying, but during rest, during a pause. You step away for 5 minutes, make a cup of tea, look out the window, pet your cat, and suddenly, without trying, the answer arrives. The solution appears. The connection becomes clear. This isn't procrastination. This isn't wasting time. This is how your brain works. It needs space to process, to connect disparate pieces, to see patterns. And it does some of its best work when you're not actively trying, when you step back and give it room. So build pauses into your learning. Build breaks into your practice, not because you're weak or can't focus, but because pauses are productive. They're part of the process. They're when insight emerges. Your breathing is like a whisper now, barely audible, barely noticeable, and yet perfect. Exactly what your body needs. No more, no less, just right. Deep rest after learning helps memory settle. Sleep is when your brain does crucial work, organizing everything you've taken in during the day, sorting, categorizing, deciding what to keep and what to discard, moving memories from temporary storage to permanent storage, strengthening the connections that matter, weakening those that don't. This is consolidation, and it happens during sleep, especially during certain stages of sleep. Deep slow wave sleep, REM sleep. Your brain is incredibly active during sleep, not resting, working, processing, learning. So rest isn't laziness. Rest isn't the absence of productivity. Rest is essential. It's when learning becomes permanent, when it integrates, when it becomes truly yours. Every time you sleep after learning something new, you're literally strengthening what you learned, making it more accessible, more usable, more permanent. So honor your sleep. Protect it. Prioritize it. It's not optional. It's necessary. For health, yes, but also for learning, for growth, for becoming who you want to become. Feel yourself sinking even deeper, like you're floating in warm water, supported, held, safe. Nothing can harm you here. Nothing can disturb this peace. You're completely protected, completely at ease. Quiet environments support focus. Noise and distraction are like hands, pulling your attention in multiple directions. Your brain has to work harder to filter them out, to maintain concentration in spite of them. And that's exhausting. It depletes your cognitive resources. But quiet allows you to go deep, to really sink into what you're learning, to give it your full attention without competing demands. If you can control your environment, seek quiet for important learning. If you can't, if you live with other people or in a noisy area, even headphones with gentle music or white noise can help. Can create a bubble of sound that blocks out more distracting sounds. Can give you that sense of enclosure, of privacy, of protected space where you can focus. Your mind is so quiet now. Thoughts are like distant stars, far away, barely visible, and in between, vast darkness, vast silence, vast peace. Rest in that spaciousness, that emptiness, that profound quiet. Familiar surroundings can make recall easier. There's something called context-dependent memory, a principle that says you tend to remember things better in the environment where you learned them. The sights, sounds, smells of that environment become subtly encoded with the memory itself. They become cues, triggers, and when you return to that environment, those cues help unlock the memory, help make it accessible. So studying in the same peaceful space, returning to that familiar spot, it all helps. Your brain associates the space with the learning. They become linked, connected, and later, when you are in that space again, the memories flow more easily. This doesn't mean you can't learn in different places. You absolutely can. But if you're working on something particularly challenging, particularly important, there's value in consistency of environment, in creating a dedicated learning space that your brain comes to associate with focus and growth. Let go of any remaining awareness of your body. Let it fade into the background. You are just consciousness now, just awareness, floating in peaceful darkness, held by nothing, held by everything. Simple sensory cues can anchor memory, a particular scent, a certain type of music, a specific lighting, the feel of a particular texture. These sensory details become linked with what you're learning, woven together in your memory. And later, when you encounter that cue again, it can help unlock the memory, can make it easier to access, can trigger recall almost automatically. This is why scent is such a powerful memory trigger. Why a particular song can transport you back to a specific time and place. Why the taste of something can bring back vivid memories. You can use this deliberately. You can create sensory associations with what you are learning. Burn a specific candle while you study. Listen to a particular type of music, wear a particular scent. And then, when you want to recall that information, recreate that sensory context. Use that same candle, that same music, that same scent, and watch how much more easily the memories come. Sleep, rest, dream. Let consciousness dissolve completely. Let these words become part of the fabric of sleep itself. You're safe, you're learning, You're growing, even now. Comfort supports attention. When you're uncomfortable, when you're cold or hungry or thirsty or sitting in a way that creates pain, part of your attention goes to managing that discomfort. Your brain has to devote resources to it, resources that aren't available for learning. But when your basic needs are met, when you're physically comfortable, all of your attention is available. All of your cognitive resources are free. You can focus fully, learn more easily, process more deeply. So taking care of your body isn't separate from taking care of your mind. They're the same thing. One thing, integrated. When you make sure you're comfortable, when you address hunger or thirst or temperature, when you sit in a way that doesn't create pain, you're actually supporting your learning, supporting your growth. And that's an act of care, an act of kindness toward yourself. Your awareness is barely a flicker now, almost gone. And that's perfect. That's exactly right. You can surrender completely to sleep, to rest, to the healing darkness. Nothing is required of you. Nothing is expected. You can simply be, simply rest, simply exist in this peaceful state. Nature nearby can calm the mind. Even small touches of nature, a plant on your desk, a view of trees through a window, natural light instead of fluorescent. These small elements reduce stress, calm the nervous system, create a sense of peace and connection. And in that peaceful state, learning becomes easier, more enjoyable, more sustainable. You don't need to be in a forest or on a mountaintop, though those are wonderful if you have access to them. But even small touches of nature, even tiny connections to the natural world, they help. They ground you. They remind you that you are part of something larger, something ancient and ongoing. And that reminder creates perspective, reduces pressure, allows you to approach learning with more ease. Rest, fully, completely, deeply. You've done so well. You've listened. You've absorbed. You've allowed yourself this gift of peaceful learning. And now you can rest. Completely, utterly. Sleep calls to you. And you can answer. You can surrender. All is well. You don't need a perfect environment. You don't need everything to be ideal. Perfect is impossible, and aiming for it creates stress. But these small considerations, these gentle adjustments, they add up. They create conditions where you can thrive, where learning feels less like struggle and more like natural growth. And you deserve that. You deserve to make things easier on yourself. You deserve to remove obstacles instead of pushing through them. You deserve to work with yourself, with your nature, with your needs, instead of against them. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. That's self-respect. That's compassion. And from that foundation of care, everything else becomes possible. Sleep now. Dream. Float in the peaceful darkness. You're exactly where you need to be. Exactly who you need to be. Perfect, complete, whole. Rest. You're drifting now. In and out of consciousness. In and out of dreams. And that's beautiful. That's the perfect state for this part of our journey. We're going to explore something deep now. Something fundamental. How you see yourself. What motivates you? What keeps you moving forward even when things are difficult? These aren't just abstract concepts. They're the foundation of everything, the ground from which growth emerges. Notice the darkness, the stillness, the profound peace of this moment. Nothing is moving. Nothing is changing. There's just this, just now, just being. And it's enough. It's more than enough. It's perfect. seeing yourself as a learner encourages consistency. Identity is powerful, much more powerful than goals or willpower or motivation, because identity is who you are, not just what you want to do. And people act in ways that are consistent with their identity. If you see yourself as someone who learns, who grows, who stays curious, then learning becomes natural. Not something you have to force, not something you have to constantly motivate yourself to do. It's just what you do. It's who you are. And that identity carries you forward even when motivation wavers, even when you don't feel like it, even when it's hard, because you're not asking, should I do this? You're simply being who you are. And who you are is someone who learns, someone who grows, someone who evolves. You can choose this identity. You can claim it. You can say, I am a learner and mean it. And watch how that simple shift in self-perception changes everything. Your body is completely at rest now. Every muscle loose, every joint soft. You're like a rag doll, like water. No structure, no tension. Just complete release, complete surrender to rest. Personal meaning helps memory last. When you connect what you're learning to something that matters deeply to you, to your values, to your life, to your dreams, it sticks. It becomes more than information, more than facts to memorize. It becomes part of your story, part of who you are and who you're becoming, and things that are woven into your story, into your sense of self. Those things don't fade easily. They last, they endure, they remain accessible years later. So always ask yourself, why does this matter to me? Not why should it matter? Not why does someone else think it matters? But why does it actually matter to you? What makes it relevant? What makes it significant? And when you find that personal connection, that thread of meaning, learning becomes easier, memory becomes stronger, understanding becomes deeper, because you're not just learning something external, you're integrating it into who you are. Let your mind be like the night sky, vast, dark, spacious, with just a few faint stars of thought scattered across the emptiness. So much space, so much quiet, so much peace. Clear reasons for learning support persistence. Motivation fluctuates. Some days you feel excited and energized. Other days you feel nothing, no enthusiasm, no drive. And if you're relying solely on motivation, those low days become obstacles, become reasons to stop. But when you know your why, when you have clear reasons that go beyond momentary feeling, you can persist even when you don't feel like it. Why does this matter to you? What will it give you? What will it allow you to do or be? How will it change your life? And these reasons don't have to be grand or noble. They can be simple, practical, personal, whatever is true for you. But knowing them, really knowing them, that creates a foundation, a bedrock that holds firm even when the surface waters are turbulent, even when motivation ebbs, even when things are hard. You remember why, and that's enough to keep going. Breathe, so slowly, so gently, each breath like a whisper, like a sigh, like the sound of wind through grass, barely there, and yet sustaining you, keeping you alive, keeping you present just enough to absorb these truths. Struggle followed by success strengthens learning. The difficulty isn't punishment. It's not a sign that you're doing something wrong or that you're not capable. It's part of the process, a necessary part. When you work through something challenging and then break through, when you struggle and then succeed, that victory teaches you something important, something that easy success can't teach. It teaches you that you can handle difficulty, that persistence pays off, that you're more capable than you sometimes believe, and it makes the learning stick in a way that easy learning doesn't. The struggle makes it memorable, makes it significant, makes it yours in a deep way. So when things are hard, when you're struggling, remind yourself that this is valuable. This is where real growth happens. This is where transformation occurs. Rest, peace, stillness. Nothing more is required. Nothing more is needed. You've done enough. You are enough. Simply rest. Noticing what went right stabilizes progress. It's so easy to fixate on mistakes, on what didn't work, on what's still difficult. Your brain has a negativity bias. It pays more attention to problems than successes. Because evolutionarily, problems were dangerous. They needed attention. But fixating on what's wrong while ignoring what's right, that creates a distorted picture. It makes progress feel slower than it is. It makes you feel less capable than you are. But when you deliberately notice what did work, what went well, what improved, you reinforce those patterns. You teach your brain to do more of that, and you build confidence, quiet, genuine confidence that comes from seeing your own competence, from recognizing your own growth. So make it a practice. After each learning session, notice what went right, even one small thing, even something tiny, and let yourself appreciate it. Let go, completely, utterly. Fall into the darkness, into the peace, into the deep rest where healing happens, where growth happens, where transformation occurs without any effort from you. Engagement matters more than effort alone. You can grind away at something, putting in hours and hours, working hard, and make little progress, because effort without engagement is just exhausting. It's depleting. But engagement, true engagement, where you're genuinely interested, genuinely curious, genuinely connected to what you're learning, that's powerful, that's transformative. And engagement isn't something you can force. You can't willpower your way into caring about something, but you can seek connections. You can ask yourself, what about this interests you? What relates to things you already care about? What applications might matter to you? You can find your way in. And once you find engagement, once you feel that connection, effort becomes easier, learning becomes faster, progress becomes more satisfying, because you're not just working, you're engaged, you're alive to what you're doing. Sleep now, completely, fully. Let consciousness go, let awareness dissolve. You're safe to disappear into sleep, into dreams, into the healing darkness where your brain does its most important work. You may not even be conscious anymore. You may have slipped fully into sleep. And that's wonderful. That's exactly what this is for. But some part of you is still listening. Some deeper part. The part that doesn't need conscious awareness to learn, to absorb, to change. Let's talk about the rhythm of growth now, the natural pace of becoming, the way transformation unfolds in its own time, its own way. Feel yourself floating, weightless, suspended in darkness, in peace, in profound rest. There's no up or down, no beginning or end, just this, just now, just being, and it's enough. It's everything. Learning doesn't happen in a straight line. This is one of the most important things to understand. Progress isn't linear. It doesn't move steadily upward. It moves in waves, in rhythms. There are moments of rapid progress, times when everything clicks, when skills develop quickly, when understanding deepens fast. And there are plateaus, periods where nothing seems to be happening, where you practice and see no improvement, where you study and feel like you're not learning anything. Both are normal, both are necessary, both are part of the natural rhythm of growth. The plateaus aren't failure, they aren't signs that you're not trying hard enough or not capable. They're integration, they're consolidation. Your brain is organizing what you've learned, making connections, preparing for the next leap forward. And the leap always comes if you keep showing up, if you keep practicing, if you don't give up during the plateau. The breakthrough arrives suddenly, often when you least expect it. Your heartbeat is so slow, so steady, like the tide, like the movement of the earth, ancient, reliable, continuous. And with each beat, you're alive, you're here, you're growing, even now, even in sleep. Some days you'll feel motivated and focused. You'll sit down to learn and immediately enter that state of flow, where time disappears, where everything feels easy, where you're completely absorbed. Other days you'll struggle to pay attention. Your mind will wander. Focus will feel impossible. And this isn't weakness. This isn't something wrong with you. This is being human. Growth often feels invisible until suddenly it's not. You practice something again and again, feeling like nothing is changing, like you're stuck, like all your effort is wasted. And then one day, without warning, without fanfare, you realize you can do it. The skill is there. It arrived quietly while you weren't looking, while you were simply being patient with yourself, while you were trusting the process. This is how real growth happens, not with big dramatic breakthroughs that you can see coming, but with quiet accumulation, small improvements that are invisible day to day, but undeniable month to month. Like a child growing, you can't see it happening. But then you look back at photos from a year ago, and you see how much they've changed. Learning is like that. Growth is like that. Trust it, even when you can't see it, even when it feels like nothing is happening. It is, always. If you're showing up, if you're practicing, if you're engaged, change is occurring. Growth is happening, even when invisible. Your mind is vast and empty now, like space, like the ocean depths. So much room, so much quiet, so much peace. And in that spaciousness, learning happens without effort, without trying, without doing, just being, just receiving, just allowing. Patience is one of the most underrated aspects of learning. We live in a world that values speed, instant results, immediate gratification. But deep learning takes time. Real transformation unfolds slowly, like seasons changing, like trees growing, like rivers carving canyons. And that's okay. That's actually perfect. Because the slow growth is the kind that lasts, the kind that becomes truly yours, the kind that doesn't fade when circumstances change. When you rush, when you try to force quick results, the learning is shallow, surface level. It doesn't integrate, it doesn't stick. But when you're patient, when you allow things to unfold in their own time, the learning is deep, lasting, permanent. So if things are taking longer than you hoped, that's not a problem. That's not a sign of failure. That's just how genuine growth works. And you can trust it. You can surrender to it. You can stop fighting the natural pace and just allow it. Allow yourself to grow in your own time, in your own way, at your own pace. Sleep deeply. Let consciousness fade completely. Let these truths sink into your subconscious, into the deep parts of you that don't need words or thoughts, that just know. that just are. You don't need to compare your pace to anyone else's. This is so important. Their journey is theirs. Yours is yours. Some people learn certain things quickly. Other things take them longer. The same is true for you. And none of it means anything about your worth, about your intelligence, about your value as a person. You're not in competition with anyone. You're not racing. You're just growing, unfolding, becoming. And that happens in its own time, on its own schedule. Comparison only creates suffering, creates pressure, creates unnecessary stress that actually slows learning. But when you can release comparison, when you can focus on your own path, your own progress, your own journey, everything becomes easier, lighter, more enjoyable. You're not constantly measuring yourself against others and finding yourself lacking. You're just being yourself, growing at your own pace. And that's enough. That's more than enough. That's perfect. Rest in the darkness, in the silence, in the profound peace of this moment. Nothing is required. Nothing is expected. You're perfect exactly as you are. There will be moments of doubt, times when you wonder if you can actually do this, if you're capable, if you have what it takes. Those moments are part of the journey too. They're not signs to quit. They're not evidence that you're not good enough. They're just human moments, vulnerable moments. Everyone has them. Every single person who's ever learned anything has faced doubt, has wondered if they could do it. And the ones who succeeded, they didn't succeed because they never doubted. They succeeded because they continued anyway. They were kind enough to themselves to keep going even through the doubt, even through the fear, even through the uncertainty. And you can be that kind to yourself too. You can acknowledge the doubt without letting it stop you. You can say, yes, I'm scared, and I'm going to keep going anyway. That's courage. That's commitment. That's self-compassion in action. Let go, completely. There's nothing left to hold on to. Nothing left to figure out. Just rest. Just be. Just exist in this peaceful state where all is well. Every expert was once a beginner. Every person who makes something look easy struggled with it once. They weren't born knowing how to do it. They weren't gifted with natural talent that made it effortless. They just kept going. They practiced. They failed. They tried again. They were patient with themselves. They were kind to themselves. They didn't give up. And slowly, gradually, over time, they became skilled. They became capable. They became what they are. And you're on that same path. You're in that same process. You're becoming. And it doesn't matter that you're not there yet. What matters is that you're on the way. What matters is that you're showing up. What matters is that you're trying. That's enough. That's everything. Sleep now, fully, completely. Let dreams carry you away. Let your brain do its work, organizing, processing, consolidating, making you stronger, making you more capable. Even as you rest, celebrate small wins, tiny moments of progress. Each one matters. Each one is evidence of your growth. You don't need to wait for major achievements to feel proud. The fact that you showed up today, that you tried, that you're listening to this right now, that's worth celebrating. Every small step forward, every tiny improvement, every moment of engagement, they all count, they all matter. They all add up to something significant over time. So notice them, appreciate them. Let yourself feel that small flush of pride, that quiet satisfaction, that sense of accomplishment. not in an arrogant way, not comparing yourself to others, just acknowledging your own growth, your own effort, your own courage in continuing. Rest, peace, stillness. You are enough. You've always been enough, and you're growing, becoming more. And that's beautiful. Learning changes you, not just your skills or knowledge, but who you are, how you see yourself, what you believe is possible. This transformation is quiet, subtle, easy to miss day to day, but it's real, and it's happening right now, in this moment. As you rest and listen and absorb, you're not the same person you were when you started listening. You've changed, shifted, grown, even if you can't feel it yet, even if it's not obvious. The change is happening, the transformation is occurring, and tomorrow, next week, next month, you'll look back and realize how much you've grown, how much you've changed, how much more capable you've become. And you'll be amazed, grateful, proud, because you didn't give up, because you kept going, because you were kind enough to yourself to continue. Sleep deeply, dream peacefully. You're exactly where you need to be, exactly who you need to be. Perfect, complete, whole. You are enough, right now, as you are. You don't need to be further along. You don't need to know more. You don't need to be better or different or more capable. You're perfect exactly where you are, not in spite of your struggles or limitations, but as a whole, complete person who is worthy of love and respect exactly as you are. And from this place of enoughness, from this foundation of self-acceptance, you can grow. Not because you're lacking, not because you need to fix yourself, but because growth is part of being alive, because becoming is natural, because evolution is what humans do. You're enough and you're growing. Both can be true at once. Both are true, always.